Good evening, ghouls and fiends. Welcome once again to another edition of the Ministry of Horror. I am your host, Tez, and this is your weekly-ish one-stop port of call for all your latest horror news and reviews, and occasionally a featured presentation. Hasn't been one for a little while, still isn't one this week, because man's been lazy. So, been a little while, but Gruff in the Discord mentioned he would like me to talk about how I am finding Resident Evil Requiem. So that's kind of what we normally do at the start, is have a bit of a catch up, repping some Pennywise merch from America. Welcome to Dairy Top. Yes, I normally have a bit of a catch up at the start of the shows to sort of say what's been occurring in the week just gone by. So I've watched a few films, and we are going to be reviewing them a bit later on. Those films being the Shudder recent addition to the schedule, Last Video Store, which is a Canadian 2023 horror film. I also watched We Bury the Dead. That was available for rent on Prime. And I had a bit of free time last night, because last night I was meant to be recording a podcast, and then I had a huge dinner. We had Chinese takeaway, and I felt incredibly lethargic. So the wife suggested, well, if you're not going to record your podcast, why don't you watch a film instead to review? So I had a little look around on Prime, and as per usual, we're in a situation where a lot of the available on streaming films, there's not really been that many new horror films that have caught my attention. Of course, if there's anything which people have noticed recently on Prime, Netflix, Tubi, Shudder, Arrow Player, that has grabbed their attention, or Disney Plus, they sometimes have horrors, let me know. I may well have missed it. But I happen to be having a little scroll through, and Silent Night, Deadly Night, the 2025 remake with Rowan Campbell, it's been on the to rent section for a while, but it's been at the home premiere. $15.99 to rent it, £19.99 to buy it. So that's a lot of cake for a digital film. £20 to own film digital is just a bit too rich for me. Anything above like £8, I sort of think, if I'm spending that kind of coin, I'd probably prefer to just get a physical release. Get a Blu-ray for a tenner, get a 4K for 25 quid. Or a steelbook if you want to be fancy. But I noticed that it was available on limited offer for renting for £5, buying for £13. So I thought, well, I don't really know too much about the film. I don't really know too much about the buzz. I've seen the original Silent Night, Deadly Night. I hate to say it, I wasn't that fond of it. I know it's a bit of a classic slasher, but it didn't really vibe with me. And but when seeing it is available to rent for £5 for a pretty new film, yeah, give it a go. So we're reviewing that a bit later on. Outside of that, yes. So Gruff had mentioned he'd like me to speak about Resident Evil Requiem. I have got a little bit further. I played a little bit last night. I'll play a little bit before work this morning. So far, it is gearing up to be one of the best horror games I've played in a while. And I mean, prior to that, Resident Evil 4 would have probably been one of the best horror games. And Silent Hill 2, I am still chipping away at occasionally. I don't play on my PlayStation as much. PlayStation's in the living room. The dog's in the living room. My emotional support dog, Bailey, the pooch of horror, if I get stressed, he comes to comfort me. That's lovely. Except if you're playing a horror game or something like Elden Ring, especially something like Elden Ring that you can't pause, where you just need to concentrate and lock into the zone. You don't want to have to suddenly go, okay, hello, pooch, go away. So, Silent Hill 2 I'm quite far behind on, but it's so good. The graphics in Requiem are excellent, and it was really a genius move, blending the worlds of 7 and 8 with the first-person focus, the immersion of first-person, and then the action of Leon from Resident Evil 4. That Resident Evil 4 obviously revolutionized the over-the-camera angle, the bit more of a focus on the action, but still ramping up the horror elements. Obviously, 5 sort of focused a bit more on action, but you know, it's a revolutionary game in the series, but also in video gaming. And the remake was brilliant. So far, it's just they've really nailed that balance. Now, I say balance, I'm not that far into the game. I'm back playing as Grace. I've done a couple little sections as Leon, but I'm back playing as Grace. I am making progress. I had got a little bit stuck where I sort of thought, I feel like I've checked every room that I have access to. I'm not really sure what I'm missing. But I have sort of figured out, okay, this is what I need to be going to do next. So I sort of thought, why have I got a wrench? And then I realised, okay, I'm pretty sure I went to a door at one point in a panic, and the spinny wheel came off that door, and I'd just forgotten about that door. It's not marked. It hadn't been marked on my map, and I hadn't really thought to go back and have a look at it. So I'm gonna, maybe tonight, who knows? But this week I am gonna go and explore that section, which I think is the cold storage area that's been locked off to me. So hopefully that will and you know, open up some more locations for me and keep the progression going. But Requiem so far is excellent. Very early into the game, very, very jumpy game, especially playing it at night with the headphones on, locked in. It's nerve-wracking, to say the least. And then outside of that, yeah, I mean, Warhammer 40k. I have started reading the Horus Heresy Book 1, Horus Rising. Now, it filled me with a bit of dread that the first page has a list of who the various characters are and what their roles are, their military position and what ranks they are and what armies they are in. Because that's one of the things with fantasy and I suppose sci-fi literature that usually does put me off, is the mad names and that I just don't remember. So I was a little bit nervous then, but so far it's interesting enough, and I have read a little bit of 40k in. I've got the Deathwatch omnibus on Kindle, which I think is like 3 books or so collected, because you know Deathwatch is who I'm going to be building. So I've been doing a bit of that reading. So I finally finished King Sorrow. Fans of Joe Hill, you know, writer of the Black Phone. I was going to say son of Stephen King, but you know, he wrote the Black Phone, wrote Nosferatu, wrote Heart-Shaped Box, Horns. It's really good. It took me a while because it is like 870 pages, but yeah, it's not like out and out horror. Really, there's horror elements, but it is more of a fantasy drama, long-term adventure sort of story, I think is the best way that I can put that. But thoroughly enjoyed that. So on my Goodreads, I'm thinking about 1 book ahead of my schedule. I think I set myself like 23 books to read this year, which hopefully I can do, because I managed to do 22 last year. So I'm trying to keep my goals realistic when it comes to the reading. But yeah, been building. I've painted my Night Lord, one of my Night Lords. I can't really reach them, and they probably wouldn't show up that well on the camera for anyone watching on YouTube. But maybe at some point I'll do a little video on socials of where I'm at so far with my building and painting progression, because I am getting a bit better. I'm still nowhere near the level of the people that you see on online who, you know, make the painting look really easy and it comes out incredibly detailed and just looking amazing. Like, I'm nowhere near that level, but it's just, yeah, it's just so therapeutic. I really do enjoy doing a bit of building, bit of painting, you know, with an audiobook on or with film on in the background. Good. It's good. And that's really all I've been up to. Nothing kind of too crazy. A trailer dropped for From Series 4. And the trailer did look good, but I haven't watched From Series 3. Now, I was quite a big fan of the first 2 seasons. For people who don't know, it was made by some of the producers of Lost, such as Damon Lindelof. And that initially did fill me with a certain element of dread on the basis of Lost was a great show for the most part, but it did suffer from that issue of we can ask some amazing, weird, mystery questions. And then we can keep building with more questions and keep people guessing. But there does come a point when you need to start answering those questions. And naturally, not every question, unless it's been perfectly set up, is going to have a satisfactory answer. More often than not, the answers lead to more questions. And that does then usually give the impression of, did they know where they were going with this story? Did they start off this story with just, oh, here's a good setup, we'll figure out the ending later on? And I did enjoy the first 2 seasons, but I did find myself just thinking, okay, we're going into a 3rd season. I'm hearing a lot of buzz that this is great, but I'm also hearing a lot of, oh, we need to start getting answers. And that has been my fear. And that's sort of why I just never got around to watching season 3. So part of me does think, well, do I wait for this season to come out, or do I wait for the show itself to finish and see if there is like any discussions of, well, things got wrapped up nicely, or this, blah 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 blah. I don't know. I mean, I generally prefer not to have spoilers, and I prefer to go on the adventure. But it's difficult when you think about investing your time into a show that may well just end up having no idea where it's going, and then ending up being a bit disappointing. So yeah, on that basis, I haven't jumped into it, but the series trailer for series 4 has dropped. It does look pretty interesting. Anyway, it's about time that we start getting into some horror news. So, as all the news, this comes from bloodydisgusting.com. Be sure to check them out for your horror tidbits, socials, etc., etc. So first up is from Alex DiVincenzo, who writes, Obsession trailer. Curry Barker conjures an unstoppable love in May. Love knows no bounds in the Obsession trailer from writer-director Curry Barker, who did Milk and Serial, and is also part of That's a Bad Idea, a comedy duo on social media. Be careful what you wish for when the horror film opens in theatres May 15th via Focus Features. In the movie, after breaking the mysterious one-wish willow to win his crush's heart, a hopeless romantic finds himself getting exactly what he asked for, but soon discovers that some desires come at a dark, sinister price. Michael Johnston, Indy Neveretti, Cooper Tomlinson, Megan Lawless, and Andy Richter star. James Harris of T-Shot Productions, Hayley Nicole Johnson of Under the Shell, Christian Mercury of Capstone Pictures, and Roman Villaris produce. Okie dokie. So the trailer for this, I saw the teaser a little while ago. Looked interesting. The trailer for this has instantly gone onto my must-watch at the cinema list. It's a short list, but it's definitely on there. I mean, Cooper Tomlinson, I sort of became aware of via the comedy duo. That's a Bad Idea. And at first I sort of thought, okay, well, these guys are kind of funny, but also heavily influenced by Tim Robinson of I Think You Should Leave Now fame. And I do love Tim Robinson, but sometimes when you see heavily influenced, you sort of can veer into just ripping off that style. But actually, no, they are very, very, very funny. And I've seen some of his short films, The Chair and Milk and Serial, which is kind of between a short film and a feature film. I think it's just about an hour long, so it's really, it's kind of slap bang in the middle of what I would expect from between a feature and a short. And it was very, very good, actually. But yeah, this really does look like Curry Barker is a special filmmaker. If this can stick the landing, and if it can build up the tension as the trailer looks to, then I think we could really have a contender for a surprise hit of the year. We'll have to wait and see. It's coming out, May 15th in America. I don't know about the UK. We tend to get shafted a bit on theatrical releases for more independent films over here, but this is a Blumhouse release, so we might be fortunate actually over here in the United Kingdom. Next up, sad news. The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs series finale aired just on March 6th, so this news is a bit out of date, by Alex DiVincenzo, who writes this. The last drive-in with Joe Bob Briggs is coming to an end, but fear not, because the drive-in will never die. Shudder has announced the bummer news that the season 7 finale will bring the beloved series to a close, but Joe Bob Briggs and Darcy the Mail Girl will return for 4 brand new specials on Shudder throughout the rest of the year. In the series finale, the horror hosts will celebrate the weirdly wonderful world of genre cinema with a double feature. They'll also take a look back at 7 years at the drive-in. In the final episode, which aired on Shudder and AMC Plus and is available on demand now, the first of 4 new specials, Joe Bob's Wicked Witchy Wingding, will follow on April 24th at 9 p.m. ET. Double feature of occult flicks continues Briggs' eternal campaign to establish Walpurgisnacht as an American horror holiday. Joe Bob Briggs has been a Shudder staple since 2018, when his original 13-movie marathon broke the internet, said Courtney Tomasa, EVP Linear and Streaming Products. Since then, he and Darcy the Mail Girl have continued to delight Shudder fans with double features and seasonal specials tailored to horror buffs and cinephiles alike, always offering plenty of surprises. We look forward to sharing these 4 new specials with drive-in mutants everywhere. The Last Drive-In is directed by Austin Jennings and produced by Matt Mangiarades and Justin Martell of Not the Funeral Home, who did Night of the Reaper and Street Trash 2024. So, I'd gotten into The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs a little while ago, when UK Shudder wasn't getting, not to use this term again, shafted left, right and centre when it comes to content. And in the last few years, a lot of it's come off UK Shudder to the point that they would start just uploading The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs, just Joe Bob. So you wouldn't actually get the film. You'd get his opening chats, his intermission monologues, and then the finale, ending of the films. But that's great, but it's not how it's meant to be. You're meant to watch this double feature, 2 films with these little breakups of information and funny quips and whatnot from Joe Bob and his assistant Darcy, the Mail Girl. So I'd have probably felt more sad if we were regularly getting the proper content in the UK, but as such, we quite often would just get, we started getting a few episodes now, here and there, but not full seasons. And I understand that comes down to the fact that streaming rights on films are different in America to the UK. So certain episodes of a season may have films that just aren't readily available in the UK on streaming. You could argue that, I can't imagine that they're not like Indiana Jones or Star Wars or whatever, so I can't imagine they'd be that difficult to get the streaming rights, too. But I know it doesn't quite work like that. It's nothing's ever quite as simple as you think it should be. But hopefully it's able to live on. We've got the specials coming up throughout the year, or the Americans have got the specials coming out throughout the rest of the year. But yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame because it's a unique show. So that's a shame. Next, Zazie Beetz is ready for battle on new They Will Kill You poster. Alex DiVincenzo writes, tickets are on sale now for They Will Kill You, which will be unleashed in theatres on March 27th via Warner Bros. To celebrate, we have a new poster and teaser for the gory horror action comedy below. Zazie Beetz stars as a young woman who must survive the night at the Virgil, a demonic cult's mysterious and twisted death trap of a lair, before becoming their next offering. Maya La, Patterson Joseph, Tom Felton, Heather Graham, and Patricia Arquette round out the cast. Kirill Sokolov directs from a script he co-wrote with Alex Litvak. There we go. It filmmaker Andy Muschietti produces alongside Barbara Muschietti and Dan Kagan. So I caught the trailer for this probably before Scream 7, and it did look kind of interesting, actually. It's certainly got that Ready or Not vibe to it. Not just in terms of the plot being sort of similar. Obviously, it's not a marriage situation, it's not a family situation, but being in a role where you're being hunted and then having to fight back, it's not a unique concept, but it looked pretty decent. It looked quite fun, and satanic horror comedies. What more can you want, really? So I'm going to be keeping an eye out for They Will Kill You for when it gets its UK release. So in theatres in America, March 27th. So, hopefully that's a similar sort of date for the UK. And if I can get down to the cinema, I will get down to the cinema. Also in the news, Obsession to open and Hokum to close the 10th edition of the Overlook Film Festival. Megan Navarro writes, the Overlook Film Festival has announced this morning their first wave of programming for the upcoming 2025 edition. I'm sure that should be 2026 edition. Taking place April 9th to April 12th at the Britannia Theatres in New Orleans, Louisiana. Get ready to descend on America's most haunted city for interactive events, live performances, immersive programming, and special guests. The initial lineup includes 47 films, 21 features, and 26 shorts from 7 countries, as well as immersive experiences, live presentations, and horror-themed celebrations. Overlook's 10th year will kick off with the horror-themed Second Line Parade presented by Shudder before opening night film Obsession. Festival favourite Leviticus screens as the centrepiece film, with Neon's Hokum closing the festival. Also look for a plethora of buzzy screenings, premieres, special events, and immersive experiences. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you guys in America, you're getting spoiled. We in the UK, I suppose, in terms of film festivals, our big one is Fright Fest. There's a couple of other ones of varying sizes, but Fright Fest is our one sort of major event in London. One day I do hope to actually go, whether that's just to watch a film or a couple of films. I would like to do the actual festival, but it's a lot of films, a lot of different screenings. But it is something that one day I would like to do, and I think it'd be quite cool to do like a Ministry of Horror coverage at Fright Fest. But I don't actually know what time of year that is. Fright Fest 2026. That's Glasgow. Fright Fest London. It's scheduled August 27th to 31st, 2026. Yeah, I may be able to go to it. I mean, that date is pretty close to something pretty incredibly important. But that would be pretty cool. I mean, there is a Halloween event October 30th to 31st now. That would also be très cool. Let's have a quick look to see if they've released the films for it yet. I suppose probably not, because it's a few months away. Okay, so I can join a mailing list. Their website looks pretty shonky. Okay. Anyway, moving on to our final bit of news. Hokum trailer. Adam Scott is drawn into a nightmare from Oddity director Damien McCarthy. Once again, Alex DiVincenzo writes, there are worse things than strangers in the Hokum trailer. Checking into theatres May 1st via Neon. Written and directed by Damien McCarthy of Oddity and Caveat fame, the horror film has been rated R for some violent, disturbing content and language. Adam Scott of Severance stars as a reclusive novelist, Ohm Barman. When he retreats to a remote Irish inn to scatter his parents' ashes, the staff's tales of an ancient witch haunting the honeymoon suite take hold of his mind. Disturbing visions and a shocking disappearance draw Ohm into a nightmarish confrontation with the darkest corners of his past. Peter Coonan, David Wilmot, Florence Ordesh, Michael Patrick, Will O'Connell, Brendan Conroy, and Austin Amelio round out the cast. I have watched this trailer. It's just hyped me up even more for this. I mean, I do think prior to Hokum hitting UK cinemas, and I definitely want to see Hokum at the cinema. That's also on the 2026 horror cinema visit list. It is making me think that I probably need to go back and definitely rewatch Caveat, if not also Oddity. Because Caveat I can't really remember. It was a while ago. I watched it on Shudder. I was probably on my phone a bit at the same time, I will admit. An Oddity I remember being decent. There were certain moments that were incredibly creepy, but overall I thought, it's alright. I can't remember what I gave it on here. Probably gave it like a 6, maybe a 7. But it didn't blow me away. But as I say, there were a couple of moments that were particularly creepy. But I mean, so far, like Hokum is just, it does just look like nightmare fuel. Like the visuals in it just look so creepy. There's certain like wood carvings or miniature sculptures that just have these weird rounded eyes. It's something to do with the presentation of the eyes in these sort of figurines, and also this mask. I mean, I'm assuming it's a mask. This sort of creature with like massive ears. They've all just got these really overtly exaggerated large round eyes, and it's just creepy as anything. So Hokum, check the trailer out. I've already sent it to my little horror WhatsApp group to say this is, you know, actually no, it wasn't the Hokum trailer, it was the Obsession trailer I sent to them. I'll have to send them Hokum as well, because we did catch a bit of the trailer, or a trailer, in the cinema when we got in to watch Scream 7. But I should actually mention, Odie and Milton Keynes sort of dropped the ball a bit there. We got there on our usual sort of time, which, because I'm a complete nerd and I like to watch the trailers, is usually the time that's on the ticket. I know the film doesn't normally start for like 20 minutes or half an hour later. I don't care. But they had issues with the drinks machines, and then no one on the tills because of the issues with the drinks machines. So we had to wait so long just to get our popcorn buckets, because, yes, I get cinema popcorn. You have to mortgage your house to get it, but it's worth it because it's good. But yeah, we missed quite a few of the trailers. We did catch the trailer for Lee Cronen's The Mummy, which looks creepy, although I'm still dubious over why it's called The Mummy. But the very end of the trailer for Hokum, my mates didn't really notice the trailer because we were sort of going in to get seated. But I sort of caught it, and I straight away knew that it was Hokum and thought, oh, gots to see that when it comes out. Anyway, Ghouls and Fiends, that's it for the horror news. We're going to get on to the reviews now. Switching over to the other screen. We're going to start off with The Last Video Store. So, with the reviews here on the Ministry of Horror, we like to talk a little bit about the plot, try not to go into too much spoiler territory. I then talk about the highs, the lows, and I give the film a score out of 10. So, The Last Video Store is a 2023 Canadian comedy horror film directed by Cody Kennedy and Tim Rutherford, starring Kevin Martins, Yaya Adams, Matthew Kennedy, Josh Lenner, and Leland Tilden. Okay. A man sits on his couch watching a collection of B-grade movies on VHS when a mysterious glowing black tape appears. Putting it in his VCR, the film text crawl talks about the video format wars and the rise and fall of video rental stores before cutting to a promo for the last remaining store, Blaster Video. It advertises free rentals for new customers, as well as a free refrigeration magnet and a clearance sale of action film Fury of the Viper before fading to black. Sometime later, Nyla enters the Blaster Video to return the tapes, meeting the store's eccentric film buff owner Kevin, who deduces that the tapes belong to her father. He offers to waive the late fees and rewind fees, while offering his synopsis and critique of the films Beaver Lake Massacre 4, a Friday the 13th style slasher, Prey Stalker, a sci-fi monster film like Predator, and Warpgate, a cheesy adventure movie. Nyla also has the possessed black tape, and when they play it, it locks them in and releases characters from the other films into the store. So, this film it's a bit of a love letter to the era of VHS, not just necessarily VHS horror, but VHS films. And also, I guess by extension, the physical media era, which I very much still live in the physical media era. I love my little physical media collection. It's a love letter in that regard, because in this modern world of streaming, we are open to so much choice, so much availability, that it's very easy to just put something on for 5 minutes and then, let's change it. And if you're like me, you can end up thinking, you know what, I've had a long day at work, I fancy watching a film tonight. Have dinner, you do chores, whatever, this, that, and the other. Sit down, you start scrolling through the streamers, and you think, oh, okay, no. I mean, I like this film, but I've seen it before quite a few times, and I don't know if this one looks any good, and okay, you know. And you can end up, unless there's a particular film that you are going, right, tonight I'm going to watch this. Tonight, this film has landed on this streamer, and I'm going to commit my next hour and a half, 2 hours or so to it. But whilst that is a hugely convenient way to consume media, it didn't used to be like that. It used to be a case of you would sit down, put the TV on, and maybe if you didn't have Sky, you'd have a limitation of 4 to 5 channels, or with Sky or Freeview or whatever, you'd have a few more, but it would be a case of scrolling through the channels and then going, oh, look, or looking in the TV guide, in the daily newspaper or the TV guide magazine or digital TV guide and seeing, oh, this film's on, let's record it or let's watch it now, whatever. But more so with this would be going to your local video store, which then would become a Blockbusters at one, depending on if it was an independent that you live near. But the idea being, you would go to somewhere that would have videos or DVDs for rental, and you would have to make a choice, and you'd get recommendations. You have the human interaction where you could go there, spend 20 minutes looking through the different covers, reading the blurbs on the back, seeing images or artwork for the film. And sometimes that's the best way to then find something you never have considered watching before. But you could also be, chatting to the staff or chatting to your friends there or other people there and get recommendations. Oh, if you're looking for something like Halloween, you might want to try this. You might want to try, that. And it's a great way, or it was a great way, to discover new horror films. Because that's one of the things with this streaming world is you can quite often, as I say, spend so long scrolling through. There may be a film that just hasn't got as eye-catching digital, kind of media thumbnail artwork as others, and you scroll past it, but actually, pretty good hour and a half of time. And but because you would make that commitment, I've rented this now, I've got 2 nights to watch it, that's tonight's viewing. But we don't live in that world anymore, really. Which is a shame. And I think also more so from the human interaction aspect, because it's so easy to just not leave your house now. You can get everything delivered, get your food delivered, get your shopping delivered, get your films, if you want physical media, delivered. I think a lot of my special editions are ones that I've ordered. Non-special editions, I'm more likely to see in a shop. I'll get them in a shop, but special editions like the Second Sight releases, the Arrow releases, HMV do stock them, but it's not always a given. So anyway, bit of a ramble, but this is a bit of a homage-esque to that world. It's a nostalgia blast, as the artwork says. It is a cheaply, it is a low budget, not cheaply made, that sounds bad. It is a low budget horror comedy. So it does fall into that world of, it's a bit kooky, but it's not comedy as in it's going to make you laugh. It's that world where certain things happen and it's not being done in a super serious way. It's not heavy on the gore, but it is quite humorous. Mainly due to the work from Kevin. So because Kevin absolutely loves these worlds, these VHS fictional films in his world, when certain characters come through from them, he's almost fanboying out about it, even though they're quite dangerous. They could well kill you, and they are stuck in this. It's almost like a warp dimension because of this demonic VHS tape. It's a 90-minute film, but it does drag a little bit. The score is very, very, very similar to some of the incidental music moments of Stranger Things, especially the later seasons. So it's very heavily on that kind of synth, plinky plonky, 80s synth tone. But certain pieces of the score do just sound like they're straight out of Stranger Things. I don't know if they actually were, which probably would be a little bit of an issue, but it's very, very reminiscent of that. Yeah, I kind of feel like we could have had more build up prior to entering the video store, because we are in one location for the duration of the film, and it really is only 3 or 4 characters that are kind of pulled out of these films into their world, one of which being this CGI sci-fi monster, which has got like razor sharp, like kind of claws on its appendages. It's yeah, it's entertaining enough. It does drag a bit, I must say. I watched it because I'd heard a fair amount of fanfare online that oh, this film's a lot of fun. Oh, Last Video Store's on Shudder. It is a good time, and it wasn't bad by any means, but I guess it really depends on how much you enjoy indie comedy horrors, because I can appreciate them, but I never find them actually funny. They never sort of go enough into the kookiness to have genuine funny moments or genuine funny quips. Whether that's due to just the actors themselves or whether it's due to the script, I'm not sure. But I'm going to give it 5.5 out of 10, which does feel a little bit harsh. I didn't dislike it. And it does feel harsh because I gave Scream 7 a 5, and I really tore into that. So I'm going to change it 6 out of 10 for the Last Video Store. I feel that was probably, I had a better time with it overall than the finale of Scream 7. Scream 7, up until the finale, is a decent slasher, but you then start focusing on all the things that annoy you in the film, and it becomes difficult to enjoy it. So yeah, 5.5 up to 6 for the Last Video Store. Next up, we rented, and I got my wife to watch. Got my wife to watch a film with me. Got my wife to watch a horror film with me. We watched We Bury the Dead, which is available for rental. I think it was like £2. Yeah, it's £1.99. I'll rent films if they are cheap. If they're full price on release, you've got to be good to get my attention. That's for sure. We Bury the Dead is a 2024 zombie survival horror thriller movie, written and directed by Zach Hilditch. Stars Daisy Ridley, Mark Cole-Smith, and Brenton Thwaites. The plot centers on a woman desperate to find her missing husband and follows her journey as she takes on grief and the undead. After the United States accidentally detonates an experimental weapon off the eastern coast of Tasmania, the city of Hobart is destroyed and victims on the island not caught in the immediate blast are rendered brain dead. Soon it is found that some of the brain dead are regaining motor function, becoming undead, with some of them becoming violent. American physiotherapist Ava Newman, whose husband Mitch was on a business trip in Woodbridge, volunteers as part of an Australian military effort to retrieve and dispose of the bodies of the population. Ava is assigned to the northern part of the island, far from Woodbridge, retrieving bodies and alerting soldiers to kill any undead who wake up. She is teamed with Clay, another volunteer, and after finding a motorcycle in a garage, the two agree to abandon their unit and drive across Tasmania to find Mitch. Okay. There's a lot going for this film, but I can't quite put my finger on why it just didn't hit. So Daisy Ridley, I think, plays her part really well in this. You certainly feel the grief that she is going through. She has joined this. They're kind of the title is We Bury the Dead, but it's like this recovery unit where they are going in. They are masked up, going into these houses. It's not like a plague or whatnot. There's been this. The experimental weapon was like a pulse, like a huge pulse that get killed on impact, kind of caused this huge ripple effect and huge explosions. But because of that, the people that have been killed by it all have this thing. There's a kind of zombie look, the skin's all kind of rippled with like a plague sort of thing. The eyes have sort of gone a funny orange color, and a lot of them are just dead, but some of them do wake up. And that the opening of the film is really, really good. And then when we get into it, Daisy Ridley's character, Ava meeting up with Clay being very different to her. And they start going this adventure through Tasmania down towards the south of the island. And, visually it looks excellent. I liked the fact that it wasn't just a case of straight away straight away the zombies stand up and they're going for brains, and it's, you know, it's your typical zombie fare. It's not quite like that. Early doors, the zombies that we see are generally, or the undead that we see are generally just stood fairly motionless, just stood looking pained in the eyes, not doing anything. Recently reanimated, do this really horrible teeth crunching sound. It drove my wife insane because it was really, it's that sort of really grating, sort of chittering sound of teeth grinding together really loud. It's a really unsettling sound. But they're working their way on this adventure through the island, you know, through Tasmania. Come across a chap called Riley. I won't go too much into the story where it goes from there, but we then start getting a bit more of the horror elements as certain ideas are explored through, you know, various different people dealing with this situation, whether they survived potentially, or whether they live there already. You know, people who've gone to the island for their own reasons, because people aren't just there as volunteers. There's some of them, you know, will have, what's the reason for your trip? Compassion. My husband was on the island, so, you know, it's a general known thing that a lot of volunteers will be people looking for their loved ones, but they can't just go willy-nilly around the place. It's kind of it's a proper military action, you know, proper military controlled operation of, right, we're focusing in this area, you have your sections, we go through, if you see an undead, you know, raise up your flare, the army will then go in and deal with it. There's also they don't lean too heavily into the prejudice of the fact that Ava is an American, and this weapon that has caused this was a United States weapon. It doesn't really go too much into that. It sort of hints at a little bit of tension, but it's never really played too much on. There is also a little bit of a plot hole, which I don't really know why they didn't. It kind of felt like they just couldn't really come up with a good idea for why there is a separation with the characters. It's almost, there's even a point of dialogue in the film that they just sort of cut away from. Like, so are we not going to know what happened in that in this intervening period? It's a little bit vague, but we're talking, you know, second half of the film, final third of the film, you know, actions. But, you know, visually the film looks great. The acting in it is pretty good. The ramp up of the undead activity. There's a particular moment when in the trailer you'll see it when Ava is being chased by a really violent undead, and it is quite a nerve-wracking scene of just pure adrenaline. But overall, I think both me and the wife are like, it's an interesting concept. It had all the ingredients. It was shot very well, but it just wasn't great. And so for that reason, I think I am also going to have to give We Bury the Dead a 6 out of 10. Now, it's a much better made film than Last Video Store. It's obviously got more money behind it. It's got higher caliber or higher trained, whatever, actors. You know, Daisy Ridley of Star Wars, you know, second trilogy fame, or third, whatever. The more recent trilogy films. But it just didn't nail all of the pieces together perfectly. The puzzle didn't completely fit for me. And that then brings us on to Silent Night, Deadly Night. Silent Night, Deadly Night is a 2025 Christmas slasher film written and directed by Mike P. Nelson. Now, where do I know that name? So he did the Wrong Turn remake, which I didn't really like, and also The Domestics. What is The Domestics? The Domestics, 2018 American post-apocalyptic action horror. Starring Kate Bosworth and Tyler Hoechlin. No, I don't know that. So I know the name, but okay, so he did segments in VHS 85, which was not my favourite. Summer School that I've not seen. Domestics I've not seen. Wrong Turn I didn't really like. Okay, so I know the name. I don't really like a lot of his filmography. Don't let that fool you, though. So it's the second reboot of the 1984 slasher of the same name, Silent Night, Deadly Night, after the 2012 film Silent Night, which I've never seen, as well as the seventh overall instalment of the Silent Night, Deadly Night series. Film stars Rowan Campbell as Billy Chapman, along with Ruby Modine, David Lawrence Brown, David Tomlinson, and Mark Aitchison. So before I get into the plot on this one, I remember seeing the trailers for this, and it got a brief UK cinema run, I think, but I never got a chance to go and see this. Now, I think it was a bit of a combination of. I think the reason why I may have had a bit of a lack of interest initially is a bit of a combination of one. I'm not that fussed with the first film. I haven't seen any of the sequels. I know the second film is notorious for a bit of awful acting with the line "garbage day," um, and the later sequels I think just go off the rails completely, from what I understand. But the first film, I remember being quite disappointed watching it. I sort of thought, why was this such a controversial film? Like, yes, it is someone dressed as Santa butchering people, but as a film, I personally didn't think it was that good. Maybe I need to give it a rewatch. And coupled with that, it stars Rowan Campbell, who, yes, there is a sour taste in the mouth from the first exposure to Rowan Campbell being as Corey Cunningham in Halloween Ends, which I did not enjoy. We don't need to harp on that once again. And he also featured in The Monkey. Now, The Monkey is a film that it just baffles me because I was disappointed by it. I thought, oh, this is the same director as Longlegs. It's also based on an incredibly creepy short story from Stephen King. The two together should be amazing, and I didn't think it was great. I have since got like the special edition of it because there's just something that draws me to it. I don't know why. I don't think the lead actor in it is that good. The kills in it are ridiculous, but I don't know why. There's something with that film that, yeah, I'm intrigued by. But it isn't Rowan Campbell's performance in it, because I didn't think he was that good in that either. So, and I don't necessarily think he was bad in Halloween Ends. I just thought Halloween Ends was a bad film, like the script, everything. So, long and short of it being, I wasn't that interested in watching Silent Night, Deadly Night when it was announced. But the trailers looked like it could be kind of fun. Anyway, I've now watched it. So let's talk a little bit about the plot, and then I'll get into what I thought of the film. So on Christmas Eve, 8-year-old Billy Chapman is travelling by car with his parents when the vehicle stops on a remote road. A man dressed as Santa Claus approaches and murders Billy's parents in front of him, leaving Billy alive. The killer, who was fatally stabbed by Billy's mother, is later revealed. That's a bit of a spoiler. In the aftermath. Okay, that's also a bit of a spoiler. Okay, years later, Billy lives a transient life. Yeah, they've sort of, when they're talking about the plot here, they've got something in the top of the Wikipedia page, which is only revealed later in the film. Anyway, years later, Billy lives a transient life, moving between towns and avoiding long-term relationships. As every Christmas approaches, he begins hearing a disembodied voice urging him to punish people who have been naughty, and directing him to follow a ritual linked to an advent calendar, instructing him to commit a killing for each day leading up to Christmas. Billy carries out the murders while wearing a Santa Claus costume. Having killed a Christmas tree grower at a motel, Billy arrives in the town of Hackett shortly before Christmas and takes a job at a gift shop owned by Mr. Sims. There he meets Sims's daughter, Pam Sims, and the two begin a relationship. Okay. So it's slightly different to the original. The opening is fairly similar. You know, Billy's parents being killed in front of him by someone dressed as Santa on a desolate strip of, you know, snow-covered road at Christmas. But in the original film, he grows up to be an adult. He works in this convenience store, but then he almost gets like PTSD, has these flashbacks to Santa Claus, and then goes into this almost like a fugue state of murder, and just got killed randomly. With this, he's almost set up as an anti-hero. He hears this voice in his head which is directing him to kill certain people, and there's a reason behind why those certain people are selected that becomes clear quite early on as the film's progressing. It has this kind of almost comic booky feel when he picks a target. You suddenly get like a freeze frame with the screen going like red with this pretty cool art style, and then a text flashing up saying like target so and so or kill, blah, blah, blah. And it is quite outlandish and over the top. But it works. It works. Rowan Campbell is pretty good in this. You have to give him his flowers, actually. He is pretty good. And it doesn't go too over the top with the kills. It's not even too gory. I mean, there's a couple of moments of people getting their heads mushed in with axes, and you get some close-up shots, and it's pretty disgusting in a great way. But it is also quite hammy and quite funny. Like, there's a certain character that he sees at a kid's hockey game. It's a mother who's being really horrible, shouting out at I think at her child or her nephew, being really horrible. And so Charlie speaks to Billy to pick this woman. So later on, he follows her to this event. It's like a party, but this it's a Nazi party. So they're all white supremacists at this event. So he's like, oh, there's a lot of bad people here. Okay then, and carnage ensues, and it's batshit crazy, but in the best way. It's a neat story as well. I never felt like it dragged at all. Smacking the microphone around. I never felt like it dragged at all. It's 96 minutes. It runs quite smoothly, really. And I think changing up Billy to be a bit of an anti-hero is a good thing, because initially you're sort of thinking, oh, it's just we're now following this serial killer, but yeah, he's a serial killer, but the people he's killing are really actually quite bad. When you look into it, and at the same time as this is going on, certain kids in the town are going missing. There's this fabled snatcher going around town, so it's only a matter of time before the snatcher crosses paths with Billy, and it leads to a pretty decent finale. Actually, the story wraps up quite nicely at the very end of it, and I don't really have anything negative to say. I think because I went into this thinking, okay, expectations aren't massive, but it's a newer film for me to review. I'll spend my hard-earned coin on it, but it's at reduced rate, so I can't really complain. But I actually had a really good time. And I do hope that they follow it up with a sequel, actually. I don't know how well it did. I mean, box office on here is showing as 2.8 million, but no, I don't really know how much of a release it got here in the UK, which is a shame. But I would definitely recommend watching this. As I say, it's currently, at time of recording, available for like £4.50 or £5 to rent, which is a home premiere, which, you know, they're normally like £15 to rent, £16. So it's a huge bargain if you want to rent it, or you can buy it digitally for 13 quid. I'll be keeping an eye out to see if this gets like a 4K release, you know, like a special edition or something, because I would definitely want to add it to my collection. I'm going to give Silent Night, Deadly Night an 8 out of 10. I actually, I actually think it's pretty good. So 8 out of 10 for Silent Night, Deadly Night. So that's it for another edition of the Ministry of Horror. I've got to give a shout out, of course, to our long-term patrons. We have the Gruff. We also have JP and Bericles. Thank you so much for your continued support, guys. If you want to support the channel, Ministry of Horror is on patreon.com/Ministry of Horror. We have a number of different tiers. There's bonus shows that go out there. There's, you know, opportunities for suggestions for discussion points. So if you want to support the channel, there's also free memberships. Head over to patreon.com/Ministry of Horror. Check us out on other socials, YouTube. The video version of this podcast goes out. Also, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Be sure to listen. Give the channel a follow. Give it a review if you want to be nice, 5 stars. But if not, fine. Fair enough. I won't hate you. It does help the channel's exposure and helps the channel grow. And hey, it might even then lead to us getting an invite of some sort to Fright Fest. We can but hope. Anyway, Ghouls and Fiends, that is it for another edition. I'll catch you again next time. Goodbye.